In today's video, we're going to be talking about who is the best player in the NBA right now. We're pretty much a little bit past the halfway point of the 2021 and 22 NBA season, and the debate for best player in the NBA is as interesting as it's been for a really long time. I've said this multiple times on the channel, how really in the last recent decade, it's pretty much unanimously been LeBron James being the best player. There have been times where it's been a little bit of a debate, but this year, it's been a really interesting debate across the entire NBA community. It feels like there's a new best player of the league every single week of this season, and when we break it down, there's really 5 guys that have a legitimate case of being that number one player. Those 5 players being Steph Curry, LeBron James, Yana Satakumpo, Kevin Durant, and Nicola Jokich. And today I'm going to be giving the best player in the league case for all of those players, and then at the end of the video deciding who I think is the best player in the NBA as of right now. So let's get into the analysis. So let's start off by talking about Steph Curry. As we know, this is a guy here who has led the Warriors to getting back to their winning ways this season and was in the MVP conversation for a while, and a lot of people crowned Steph Curry the best player in the league in really the first, I'd say, quarter of the season, including myself. I actually made a video even last year before the 2021 and 22 season even started about why I think Steph is the best player in the league, but it's no secret that he's had a lot of shooting struggles recently, which is something we're definitely not used to seeing from Steph, and I think this has probably dropped him out of the number one spot, as probably a lot of you would agree with. With that being said though, he's still definitely in the conversation. This is a guy here who's, even though he's in a slump, we all know that he's still the best shooter in the NBA. He's still scoring at a very high level, especially the nights that he's on. We know what Steph Curry can do scoring the basketball, and I think his playmaking has been probably one of the best playmaking seasons that he's had in his career. I mean, he's really typically gonna be one of the best playmakers in the league with that off-ball movement that he has, that gravity, his ability to find open teammates and start good sequences of offense for the Warriors. He's really everything for them offensively, and we know that. He's also been pretty good defensively this season. He's shown that he can be a good perimeter defender and a good interior defender for his size, which is an underrated part of his game. Overall, so far this year, Steph is averaging 26 points per game on only shooting 42% from the field and 38% from 3, which is definitely pretty low for him, but he still does have an overall true shooting of about 58.5%, which is above league average definitely for this season. He's also putting up about 6.5 assists per game and also 1.5 steals per game. Like I said, that playmaking ability on the offensive side of the floor has definitely been shown this season, and his impact towards this Warriors team and their team success has definitely been shown for Steph. While he is slumping recently, he definitely still is in the conversation for the best player in the NBA. Next up, we gotta talk about LeBron James, and while this guy is definitely getting older, and he's 37 years old in his 19th season in the NBA, he is still absolutely in this conversation for best player in the league. He's actually averaging his highest points per game since 2010, and that also has a lot to do with how the Lakers supporting cast has really been awful this season, and he's definitely had to take a step up, but it's still extremely impressive what he's doing, the efficiency that he's doing at, and how he's still looking like he was in the prime of his career, which, if we're being honest, is really his whole career. LeBron has been in his prime this whole time, and in year 19, he's still an electric scorer in transition and in general just scoring at the rim. He's definitely improving on that jump shot a little bit still, which is very impressive. His playmaking is really one of, if not the best in the league still. He has one of the highest IQs in the NBA. He always makes the right play at the right time, and people also forget about how good of a defender LeBron James can be, especially when he's giving it his all. He's a very switchable, versatile defender, and if he's giving it his all, he can definitely be a top 30 defender in the entire league. So, I mean, even though he's in year 19, he's still absolutely dominating. I think the fact that the Lakers are not doing well this season is really having some fans bring him out of the conversation a little bit more, but his individual performance this year, he still definitely played like the best player in the league. And when we look at some stats overall for LeBron this year, he's averaging 29 points per game on over 52% from the field, 62% true shooting overall, which is pretty much much about 7% above the league average, which is extremely impressive. And he's also done a great job being a playmaker. Like I mentioned, he's almost averaging 6.5 assists per game this season, and like I mentioned, his defense has been pretty good as well. Not to mention, he's also averaging almost 8 rebounds per game, and he does a great job in transition. So even though LeBron is getting up there in age, he's still playing like it's the prime of his career, and he's definitely in this conversation as well. Next up, we got Yana Satakumpo, and this is a guy who many fans considered the best player in the league after his incredible finals performance last season and winning the NBA championship for the Milwaukee Bucks. But as this year has gone on, I think he's becoming a little bit more unnoticed, just gradually as the season goes on here. While he's still putting up MVP numbers for sure, he could potentially be the front runner for the MVP award this season, and still definitely has a really strong case to be that number one player in the entire NBA, still doing exactly what he was doing in the past 2 years, if not even better, and definitely being the best two-way player in the NBA right now, in my opinion. I mean, it's no debating that Giannis is still the best interior scorer in the league. He's definitely the best transition scorer in the league. When he gets out in transition and you don't build that defensive wall, he is scoring on you for sure. And even in the half-court game, he's improved here. His post scoring has become very good. He's able to get to the rim that way. Even his jump shot is improving a little bit, and he's shown how he's still a really good playmaker as well. I think Giannis is one of the most underrated playmakers in the league. When he drives into the paint, he's creating attention from every single defensive player on the floor, and he's able to kick that ball out to the perimeter. The Bucks have had good shooting this year, and it's shown in Giannis's numbers as well. Not to mention that he's maybe even the number one defender in the NBA as well. His incredible interior defense, shot blocking ability, pick and roll defense, and even his perimeter defense for a 7-foot guy has been absolutely incredible, and he's done a great job using his length to contest shots. And overall, Giannis is probably, in my opinion, a top 3 defender in the league, and maybe even that number 1 defender. And this is something that separates him from all the other guys that are in the conversation for best player in the NBA. They don't have that elite defense like Giannis. When we look at some numbers here, Giannis is averaging almost 29 points per game this season on about 53.5% from the field. Like I mentioned, doing a great job scoring on the interior, almost a 62% true shooting overall. He's also putting up over 11 rebounds per game and 6 assists per game and about 1.5 blocks per game as well. But while, like I mentioned, being really one of the best overall defenders in the NBA. And like I said, that's something that separates him from some of the other guys potentially, is his amazing defense and also how dominant he can be offensively for sure. Next up, we got Kevin Durant, who is always really going to be in this conversation for best player in the league. I don't know if he's actually ever really secured that spot, maybe for a couple weeks here and there, maybe throughout this season, but he's always going to be in that conversation because he's the best scorer in the NBA, and I think he really has been for a while. I mean, his ability to shoot over defenders while being 7 foot, I mean, there's no 7-footer in the league who has a better jump shot than Kevin Durant. I don't really think that's a secret at all. His efficiency is amazing. He can score at all 3 levels really effectively, including being a good post scorer. He can shoot that fadeaway jumper. He's good in that transition pull-up mid-range jumpers or pull-up threes, and I really think it's no secret he's still the best scorer in the NBA. The other aspects of his game are good. I mean, he's a good playmaker. He's got good court vision. He can find open teammates, but I don't know if it's at the same level as many of the other guys we're discussing here, and the same goes for his defense. I mean, he can be, I would say, an average defender or slightly above average defender. At times, he's a good off-ball defender, an interior defender, shot blocker, but I would definitely say that he's maybe the worst or the second worst defender out of the 5 players that we're discussing today. So that's something that does have to factor in here as well, unfortunately. When we look at his stats overall for this season, he's averaging over 29 points per game, leading the league in points per game so far this season, and he's doing it on really good efficiency as always, shooting 52% from the field, 37.5% from 3, 89.5% from the line, and 62.5% true shooting, almost in the 50-40-90 90 club. And then he's also averaging almost 6 assists per game and about 7.5 rebounds per game. He's definitely been a good playmaker overall this season. I would just say probably not as good as the other guys I'm discussing and not as good as a defender. So we have to factor that in as well. But KD's scoring alone and really his overall game in general definitely gives him a case here to be number one as well. And I'm sure many of you guys watching this video think he is the best player in the NBA, and I don't blame you at all. And then lastly, we've got to discuss Nicola Jokich here. In the last few years, he really hasn't been in this conversation, but now he definitely is. I actually made an entire video discussing, is Nicola Jokich the best player in the NBA, and he has a really strong case. I mean, he's just such a crafty overall player. He has an incredibly unique skill set for a big man. His ability to shoot those turnaround jumpers, work his way into the paint to score, pop out to the three-point line to shoot that shot, and also be the best passing big man of all time by far is incredible to watch. Not to mention he's also probably one of, if not the best rebounders in the NBA, and has really improved his defense. His defense was what was holding him back from being the best player in the league in prior years, but this year he's definitely been a good interior defender. His pick and roll defense has improved, and his overall defensive IQ has improved as well. When we look at some stats, it's just insane what Jokic is doing this season, putting up about 26 points per game on over 57% from the field and 37.5% from three as a big man, which is absolutely insane. And then also putting up nearly 14 rebounds per game and almost 8 assists per game. I would say that offensively, Jokic is the best player in the NBA, and while his defense has improved, it's probably not at the same level that some of the other guys I discussed are, so that is still just a little bit holding him back, but his defense has really improved this season. And if you don't have Jokic in your conversation as the best player in the league, you really have to watch him play, because he is a lock for top 5 and probably top 3 in the NBA as well. So now it's time for my least favorite part of the video. Probably you guys that are watching, it's your favorite part, but I've got to make a little decision here. And between these 5 guys, it's pretty much impossible to decide right now who's the best player in the NBA. And ultimately, I make all of my decisions for rankings at the end of the year. None of these are final. I mean, I'm going to make a decision right now, and then like 2 weeks later, it'll probably be different. But as of right now, if I had to choose one of these players to be the best player in the NBA, believe it or not, I'm actually going to go with Yana Satakumpo. Probably not a lot of you guys are choosing him as the best player in the league right now, but I just think that his two-way game is just so good, and the defensive gap between him and the other 4 guys I discussed is really what gives him the edge here. Like I talked about, his defense has been incredible this season overall, and his ability to still be a top 5 offensive player in the league with his insane interior scoring, his playmaking improvements. I just have to choose Giannis here. It's so close. It's almost impossible to choose, but I'm going to go with Yana Satakumpo. As of right now, the start of February, with the NBA going into the All-Star break soon, I am choosing Yana Satakumpo as my number 1 player in the NBA right now. So there you have it. That's all I've got for you guys in today's video. That's my analysis on the discussion for who is the best player in the NBA and why I ultimately think that Yana Satakumpo gets a slight edge as the number 1 player in the league right now. Make sure you guys leave your comments down below. Who do you think is the best player in the NBA right now? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next video.